Ferrari F2002. In 2002, Ferrari rolled out a machine so good it turned the Formula One season into a one-team show. The F2002, driven by Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, won 15 out of 17 races. Schumacher secured the championship with 6 races still left on the calendar. Something no driver had done before. The car's dominance came from a lethal combination. A screaming 3.0-litre 510, razor-sharp aerodynamics, and lightning-fast pit stops thanks to a titanium gearbox that shifted quicker than a blink. After it bowed out at the end of the season, the F2002 didn't disappear into a dark storage room. In 2019, chassis number 219 went under the hammer at Sotheby's in Abu Dhabi, selling for $6.6 million. Part of the proceeds went to Schumacher's Keep Fighting Foundation. The buyer, whose identity stayed private, didn't pick it up as a static display. The car remains fully operational, cared for under Ferrari's Corse Clienti program, which keeps ex-race cars track-ready for exclusive events. Every so often, it comes back to life. Its V10 scream ripping through the air at historic demonstrations and private track days. Even among Ferrari's long list of championship winners, the F2002 is special. It's the kind of car that rewrote records, shattered rivals' hopes, and still has the power to pull a crowd decades later. McLaren MP44. The 1988 Formula One season looked more like a McLaren highlight reel than a championship. The MP44, piloted by Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, crushed the competition with 15 wins from 16 races, a record that still turns heads today. Underneath its sleek white and red Marlboro livery sat a Honda RA 168e 1.5-litre V6 turbo, tuned for both speed and reliability. It hugged the track thanks to an ultra-low profile and a design that milked every ounce of ground effect the regulations would allow. Senna took his first world title that year, with Prost right behind him in the standings. The car was so far ahead that most rivals were racing for third before the lights even went out. Its only defeat came at Monza, when both McLarens ran into trouble, and Ferrari claimed an emotional home win just weeks after Enzo Ferrari's passing. Today, the McLaren's Heritage Department keeps it running, transporting it to events like the Goodwood Festival of Speed and anniversary celebrations. Hearing its turbo spool and exhaust crackle still sends fans into a frenzy, a rare taste of an era before hybrid engines and strict fuel limits. Renault R25. In 2005, the Renault R25 brought the V10 era to a deafening championship-winning close. Powered by the RS25 3.0-litre engine, it carried Fernando Alonso to his first world title, breaking Ferrari's 5-year streak and making him the youngest champion in Formula One history at the time. Its balance, reliability, and sheer consistency across the season made it the car everyone else was chasing, and, with teammate Giancarlo Fisichella, Renault sealed the Constructors' Championship too. 15 years later, the R25 made headlines all over again. In December 2020, at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend, Alonso, by then preparing for his F1 comeback, climbed back into the blue and yellow machine. The track fell silent before that first outlap, and when the V10 screamed to life, it cut straight through the hybrid-era hum. Fans in the stands pulled out their phones, commentators stopped mid-sentence, and the sound bounced off the Yas Marina grandstands like a time machine. Renault, now racing under the Alpine name, had kept the R25 in perfect working order for heritage events. The Abu Dhabi run was a reminder of what Formula One used to feel like before the rules changed the soundtrack. Videos from that weekend racked up millions of views as fans begged for the return of the high-revving V10s. Lotus 79. In 1978, the Lotus 79 rewrote Formula One's design playbook. Colin Chapman's team had cracked the code on ground effect aerodynamics, shaping the car's underside into inverted wings that sucked it to the track. With Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson behind the wheel, the 79 was untouchable, delivering 6 wins for Andretti and securing both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. Its sleek, black and gold John Player special livery became an instant icon, but it was the engineering underneath that scared the rest of the grid. Rivals scrambled to copy the concept, but in '78, Lotus had a head start nobody could match. The car was so stable through corners that it changed the way drivers approached entire sections of track, pushing braking zones deeper and carrying speeds others couldn't touch. Decades later, surviving Lotus 79 chassis haven't been left to gather dust. Several have been meticulously restored and compete in the historic Formula One Championship, where vintage machinery is pushed to its limits in front of crowds who remember its glory days. The same ground effect principles that shocked the paddock in 1978 still make it a weapon in historic racing. Running a 45-year-old F1 car at race pace isn't simple. Parts are rare, maintenance requires specialist engineers, and every lap risks stressing irreplaceable components. But for the owners and teams keeping these legends alive, the payoff is priceless. The sight and sound of one of the most revolutionary cars in F1 history, still tearing through corners like it's 1978 all over again. Red Bull RB8. The 2012 season was the final chapter in Sebastian Vettel's 3-year run of dominance, and the Red Bull RB8 was his weapon of choice. Designed by Adrian Newey, it mastered the year's tricky regulation changes, including a ban on exhaust-blown diffusers. Vettel and teammate Mark Webber combined for 7 wins, sealing both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. After its competitive life ended, the RB8 didn't retire quietly. Red Bull re-engineered a version into a fully functional 2-seater, letting passengers experience the speed and G-forces that television can't convey. The conversion kept the same roaring Renault RS 27 V8 engine, but the chassis was modified to fit a passenger seat directly behind the driver. Still open cockpit, still raw, and still blisteringly fast. This unique RB8 has toured the world as part of Red Bull's promotional events. Celebrities, sponsors, and VIP guests have strapped in for a handful of adrenaline-soaked laps, often climbing out with shaky legs and wide eyes. It's been a star attraction at demonstration runs in cities far from the F1 calendar, making the sport more tangible for fans who may never see a Grand Prix in person. Williams FW14B. The 1992 Formula One season belonged to this F1 car. Nigel Mansell took 9 wins from 16 races, clinching the title with 5 rounds still on the calendar. This car was years ahead of its rivals thanks to active suspension, traction control, and a semi-automatic gearbox. A level of technology so advanced that the FIA moved to ban much of it in the seasons that followed. Powered by a Renault RS4 3.5-litre V10, the FW14B was stable in places where other cars twitched and bounced. The active suspension system constantly adjusted ride height and stiffness mid-corner, letting Mansell carry speeds that left competitors staring at the back of that bright yellow and blue livery. It was clinical, dismantling the field week after week. After its dominant run, a handful of surviving chassis were kept by Williams or sold to private collectors. Some remain in the team's heritage program, but others have entered private ownership, where they're meticulously maintained and occasionally run at events like the Goodwood Festival of Speed. When one fires up, the combination of high-pitched V10 wail and the sight of that distinctive front wing instantly transports fans back to the early 90s. Benetton B194. The 1994 Formula One season will always have this one at its centre. It was the car that carried Michael Schumacher to his first World Championship, taking 6 wins in the first 7 races and ultimately sealing the title in a tense finale at Adelaide. Powered by a Ford Zetec R 3.5-litre V8 and designed for agility, it thrived on tight, twisty circuits and gave Schumacher the platform to dominate early in the year. The season wasn't without turbulence. Rivals accused Benetton of running illegal electronic aids, including traction control hidden in the car's software. While the FIA found unused code in the system, they couldn't prove it had been activated during races. The B194 was also caught up in other controversies, from fuel filter removals during pit stops to heated disputes over its legality. Despite the noise, the car's performance was undeniable. Today, several surviving B194 chassis exist in private collections and historic racing teams. Some are fully operational, appearing at events like the Goodwood Festival of Speed or being run at demonstration laps during Grand Prix weekends. Hearing the crisp bark of its V8 in person is a rare treat, and watching it in motion is like seeing a piece of racing history drive out of the record books. And that's it. So if you had the chance to fire up one of these retired beasts for a single lap, which would you choose? The record-breaking Ferrari, the ground-effect Lotus, or the controversy-soaked Benetton? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.